War broke out between Israel and Hamas. The attack took Israel by surprise. Though the state quickly mounted a deadly retaliatory operation, the war ended in 1949 with Israel victory, but 750,000 Palestinians were displaced. Iranian intelligence and security forces directly helped Hamas plan its October 7 attack. President Joe Biden made a strong statement of support for Israel. On the same day that Israel declared war against the terrorist group,
in this moment of tragedy, I want to say to them and to the world and to terrorists everywhere, the United States stands with Israel. We will not ever fail to have their back.
in early October 2023, war broke out between Israel and Hamas, the militant Islamist group that has controlled Gaza since 2006. Hamas fighters fired rockets into Israel and stormed southern Israeli cities and towns across the border of the Gaza Strip, killing and injuring hundreds of soldiers and civilians and taking dozens of hostages. The attack took Israel by surprise. Though the state quickly mounted a deadly retaliatory operation, one day after the October 7 attack, the Israeli cabinet formally declared war against Hamas, followed by a directive from the defense minister to the Israeli Defense Forces (IDF) to carry out a complete siege of Gaza. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict dates back to the end of 19th century. In 1947, the United Nations adopted Resolution 181, known as the Partition Plan, which sought to divide the British Mandate of Palestine into the Arab and Jewish states. On May 14, 1948, the State of Israel was created, sparking the first Arab-Israeli war. The war ended in 1949 with Israel victory, but 750,000 Palestinians were displaced, and the territory was divided into three parts: the State of Israel, the West Bank of the Jordan River, and the Gaza Strip. Over the following years, tension rose in the region, particularly between Israel, Egypt, Jordan, and Syria. But in the 1979, following a series of ceasefires and peace negotiations, representatives from Egypt and Israel signed the Camp David Accords, a peace treaty that ended the 30-year conflict between Egypt and Israel. Even though the Camp David Accords improved relations between Israel and its neighbors, the question of Palestinian self-determination and self-governance remained unresolved. In 1987, hundreds of thousands of Palestinians living in the West Bank and the Gaza Strip rose up against the Israeli government in what is known as the First Intifada. The 1993 Oslo I Accords mediated the conflict, setting up a framework for the Palestinians to govern themselves in the West Bank and the Gaza, and enabled mutual recognition between the newly established Palestinian Authority and the Israeli government. In 1995, the Oslo II Accords expanded on the first agreement, adding provisions that mandated the complete withdrawal of Israelis from 6 cities and 450 towns in the West Bank. In 2000, sparked in part by Palestinians' grievance over Israelis' control over the West Bank, a stagnating peace process, and former Israeli Prime Minister Ariel Sharon's visit to the Al-Aqsa Mosque, the third holiest site in Islam, in September 2000. Palestinians launched the Second Intifada, which would last until 2005. In response, the Israeli government approved the construction of a barrier wall around the West Bank in 2002, despite opposition from the International Court of Justice and the International Criminal Court. Factionalism among the Palestinians flared up when Hamas won the Palestinian Authority parliamentary elections in 2006, deposing long-time majority party Fatah. This gave Hamas a political and militant movement inspired by the Palestinian Muslim Brotherhood control of the Gaza Strip. Gaza is a small piece of land on the Mediterranean Sea that borders Egypt to the south and has been under the rule of semi-autonomous Palestinian Authority since 1993. The United States and the European Union, among others, did not acknowledge Hamas' electoral victory, as the group has been considered as a terrorist organization by the Western government since the late 1990s. Following Hamas' seizure of control, Violence broke out between Hamas and Fatah. Between 2006 and 2011, a series of failed peace talks and deadly confrontations culminated in an agreement to reconcile. Fatah entered into a unity government with Hamas in 2014. The Donald Trump administration set achieving an Israeli-Palestinian deal as a foreign policy priority. In 2018, the Trump administration cancelled funding of the Union Relief and Works agencies, which provides aids to Palestinian refugees, and relocated the US Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. The decision to move the US Embassy was met with applause from the Israeli leadership, but was condemned by the Palestinian leaders and others in the Middle East and Europe. Israel considers the complete and united Jerusalem its capital, while Palestinians claim East Jerusalem as the capital of a future Palestinian state. In January 2020, the Trump administration released its long-awaited Peace to Prosperity plan, which was rejected by the Palestinians due to its support for future Israeli annexation of settlements in the West Bank and control over an undivided Jerusalem. In August and September 2020, the United Arab Emirates and the Bahrain agreed to normalize relations with Israel, making them only the third and the fourth country in the region, following Egypt in 1979 and Jordan in 1994 to do so. The agreements, named Abraham Accords, came more than 18 months after the United States hosted Israel and several Arab states for ministerial talks in Warsaw, Poland, about the future of peace in the Middle East. Palestinian leader Mohammed Abbas of Fatah rejected the accords, as did Hamas. Following the outbreak of war between the Israel and the Hamas on the October 7, 2023, President Joe Biden made a strong statement of support for Israel. On the same day that Israel declared war against the terrorist group, the United States announced it would send renewed shipments of arms and move its Mediterranean Sea warships closer to Israel. While the United Nations Security Council called an emergency meeting to discuss the renewed violence, the members failed to come to a consensus statement. Given the history of brutality when the Israel and Palestinian extremist group have fought in the past, international groups quickly expressed concerns for the safety of civilians in Israel and the Palestinian territories, as well as those being held hostages by the militants in Gaza. In the first 2 days of fighting, approximately 800 Israelis and 500 Palestinians were killed. Increasing loss of life is of primary concern in the conflict. While the United States did not immediately confirm reports that Iranian intelligence and security forces directly helped Hamas plan its October 7 attack, Iran has a well-established patronage relationship with Hamas and other extremist groups across the Middle East. In addition to worries that the attacks were a signal from Iran that is preparing to escalate its influence in various Middle Eastern conflicts, experts have expressed concern that another extremist group with Iranian backing, Hezbollah, will be drawn into the war, thereby expanding the conflict beyond Israeli and Palestinian borders. On October 9th, reports surfaced that the IDF was firing at targets within Lebanon, where Hezbollah is based. An Israeli statement on the matter did not clarify the purpose of cross-border operation. A 2023 effort by the United States to help broker a normalization accord between the Israeli and the Saudi Arabia was thrown into chaos by the October conflict. Saudi Arabia has long advocated for the rights and safety of Palestinian Arab population in Israel, the West Bank and the Gaza. Especially in Gaza, those populations are now in the path of IDF operations, jeopardizing the process the Israelis and Saudis made towards common understanding. The October 2023 conflict between Israel and Hamas marks the most significant escalations of the ongoing Israeli-Palestinian conflict in several decades. Thank you for joining us on this video. Please share your feedback in the comment section. That's it for today. This is Shayog signing off.